Yeah. Money one, 너는 꿈꾸지 말만 많지, just do it. Like Nike, just do it. Get to know me and I 내 flow가 잡은 눈이.
Hi, Srinidhi.
How are
How are
you?
you? I'm good.
Thank you so much, Dee, for doing this. You took out
Well, thank you for
time.
calling me. I'm actually not sure as to what's going to happen. So I'm very excited about this.
On the contrary, I'm a little nervous talking to you. My first time. Okay, so Dee, I hope you're not tired from your journey.
Oh no, I wasn't the one driving, so I'm chill. I just came back. Yeah,
Okay. So should we start?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So Dee, my first question for you is that what were you expecting from Banasthali when you actually became a part of it, and how with time did your perception change? That's my first question.
My introduction to Banasthali actually happened by chance. When I was looking for a college, I had never known, in fact, that there was a place like Banasthali, an all girls university that would provide so many, XYZ things. So, the first time I was trying for college, computer sciences especially in Banasthali, was not on the cards. And my parents knew about the university, but I had no idea. So I just gave the exam by fluke, and I thought that, I'll just give it a try. And it wasn't a short plan as such. But when I got in the college, my perception about it changed a lot. Initially, because since I was from a co-ed school, I thought that my higher education would also be in a co-ed place. But and there were a lot of I think judgments and preconceived notions as such about Banasthali since it was an all girls. So I actually used to think that it'll be a very different environment and it'll be difficult to adjust because I had never had a group of friends that was only from a particular gender. So when I went to college in my first year, I think it took me close to 2 months to actually familiarize with the environment and to tell myself that this is where I'm going to spend 4 years. So it actually changed when I got to know about the fivefold education, etc. Because I had never imagined that I would have a college life that was filled with so many extracurricular activities and extra things in the curriculum. So that was when my perception about the university changed.
It's like that for the most of us, or at least some of us. Okay. So, what is that one thing which you like the most about Banasthali? Like, that one thing.
Well, there are a lot of things, but I think one would be just giving us the opportunity to be whatever we want to be. It is said that many people are of the opinion who are not part of Banasthali. They think that Banasthali is a very closed environment and it actually stops our growth for some reason. But that is absolutely not true. And on the contrary, we get so many opportunities. So one thing that I really like and I learned a lot from it was the fivefold education system because in my first year I wanted to participate in oratory events, etc., and that was something I'd done in school also. But things like sports and dance, for example, like I couldn't dance to save a life, frankly. And in college I got the opportunity of trying out Bharatnatyam, which I could have never imagined in like 1,000 years because it's not something that was in my comfort zone. So that really helped me, try new avenues. So I'd say I think the most important thing that Banasthali gave me was the audacity to do things that I wouldn't usually do. So I think that's one thing.
That's great. Okay. So, is there any particular event from your college life or anything that happened in Banasthali or anything that happened to you as a Banasthali, which is something very important and stayed with you, like it's with you till now, like, which you still remember?
Well, not a particular event, but I'd say a series of events. Because initially in school, I used to think that there's a certain aptitude for something, and when you do it and you're good at it, you continue doing that. But in college, a series of events changed that idea, and by the time I reached my fourth year, which is right now, I've realized that hard work is something that really sends you places, even though you don't have an aptitude for something. So initially, I never imagined that I would be part of a coding club. I used to think that I'd be more interested in for example, a debating club or something that was more in the creative side of things. And I would be a part of a team that handles events which are creative in nature. But in my second year, I got the opportunity of being part of a coding club, and being a part of that and seeing so many people who haven't been aware of coding, and eventually they become so good at it by practice, that really taught me that hard work really pays off. And because initially I thought that it's just aptitude that will lead you places, but being part of that really changed it.
And like anything that, like, the most memorable memory, sorry, the most memorable, event in Banasthali, like, what's the most memorable thing for you in Banasthali?
I think the most memorable one would be the first when I won an oratory event for the first time in the university, because it is a huge university and there's so many people in there, and so many people try for the same events. They work hard for it, and to get an achievement in the very first year, in the very first few months of being part of the university, that really boosted my confidence, and I think that was one of the most memorable events. I mean, I even had that picture of getting on the stage and speaking. I had that in my phone for so long, and I had kept it in one of my favorite folders because I really love that memory. So
Okay, so the you must have experienced, and we all do, that every other day there's a message in our class groups regarding internships and extra courses and whatnot. So, according to you, like, what do you think is the right time to join an extra course, and what kind of course should we opt for? Like, what is, like, yeah, all this.
I would be able to answer only for computer sciences, since I'm specifically associated with that. I'd say that it's very important to pay attention to what is in your course, in your classroom education, because that really forms the base of all the theory that you need, that will help you, aid you in your future development and whatnot that you want to opt in the future. And I'd say that when it comes to extra courses, it's always important to at first implement what has been taught to you. Because we know that all our curriculum is very theoretical in nature. So unless we practice that, and unless we, for example, if we're taught an algorithm, unless we know how to implement it, where it will be used, there really is no point of taking extra courses. And for extra courses, I really suggest that people waste a lot of money trying for a course that is sponsored by this XYZ company, which is huge. So it's very important to try and find out the free resources, because those are the ones that are easily available, and you can try and have a look at if you want to go in a specific in a specialization. So it's very important to at first understand where your aptitude lies, what you want to do, and then base your education on that. I mean, base your extra education on that.
So, according to you, what is the procedure for internships through which we can get through college, and like on what should we focus on for these internships?
Okay, the procedure as such, there are basically two options that you get. You can either get an on-campus internship or an off-campus one. So if you're opting for an on-campus internship, you will be given a list of all the companies that will come in the college and will provide you internships. And there are various categories, and there can be a chance that people will select you on the basis of your GPA and GPA only. On the other hand, there are companies that take your test as well as consider your GPA. Some shortlist on the basis of resume and GPA. So it's actually a mixed bag of things and not one particular thing. And it also depends on your year. For example, in our year, I mean, coronavirus happened, and that was huge. So, so many companies had to, I mean, actually back out of their. When they were supposed to come, but they did not. But your year will be very different than ours, and I think most of the companies would have already approached for your internships, etc. So I'd say that. Keep your GPA more than 7.5. That's very important. That's one way of ensuring that you are eligible for companies, both for jobs as well as internships. And to prepare for the internships, I'd say that be ready with every single subject. I mean, not every single, but be ready with at least the core subjects that you have, because chances are those companies will ask you to have, to show them that you know about those topics. And other than that, coding is very important, as we keep saying. So yeah, coding needs to be done, and you can try various competitive programming platforms. Also, you can try CodeChef, but you can also, I mean, find out other ways. There's interview bit also. I personally found interview bit very helpful for me because it has a specific ladder based on the topics, and the questions are divided on the topics, so it really helps you in revising as well as applying your knowledge. So
Thank you for your insight. You know that since our first years unfortunately couldn't see, or they could not get that college experience which we had due to this situation. So is there something you would like to tell them, any piece of advice or anything you want to share about your college life or anything?
well, I was actually thinking about the first years recently when I was talking with my friends. They're all in the fourth years, and we were thinking as to how our first year was and how the current first year has to spend their first year of college life in front of a laptop. So I'd say Banasthali University was such a great experience. When we were present there physically, and for the first years, I'd just say that we just hope that the pandemic kind of gets into control so that you can experience that when you go to college. And Banasthali has a lot to offer, and be it sports, be it dance, be it music, be it your oratory skills, everything you can find in just one place. And Banasthali will be a very memorable, event in your life, I'd say.
When it comes to CS, everybody, companies, they expect a good command in coding from the students. So, what are your views on it personally? Like any piece of advice that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'd say that coding, there are people who are of the opinion that just competitive programming will not lead someone anywhere. And I mean, I wouldn't completely deny it, but I wouldn't completely agree with it as well. I'd say that coding is, I mean, simply put, coding would be your logical ability. So even if somebody, for example, is trying out for MBA, they need to prove that they have the logical ability and aptitude to do so. So if you are going in a software company, and if you are going to develop something, you need to prove to them that you have the logical ability, to be able to solve problems as they come. So coding in that sense is very important. But it is also important to maintain a balance with the theory that is taught in college. So, I mean, you cannot put all your eggs in just one basket.
So, how being a CA student has helped you? Like, what advice can you give us for your, like, what advice can you give us and the first years when it comes to this particular branch?
Well, computer science, I'd say that personally speaking, I have always had an aptitude for computer science. So it was an easy choice to make. But for people who have come from a non technical background, from a non CS background, who haven't studied coding in their 12th, it's a very difficult transition. But I just say hang in there and just keep trying to get to know about more things and more technologies. And although it's very important to be theoretically strong, it is also very important to be implementatively smart, in the sense that if you have not had the experience of being a coder in your 12th, there's always time. There are so many people who are in our batch who were from no technical backgrounds and have done tremendously well for themselves by the time they got to the fourth year. So it's never too late to start. And also for the people who have, I'd say maybe who are in their third year or who are in their second year and still haven't begun. There's a lot of time still, and you need to just systematically plan out what you want to study and how you want to study. And it'll lead you places.
And according to you, is there any particular pathway for the students from the placement point of view?
For placement perspective, I think, I'll tell you about the things that were not, that we got to know about, which were kind of half baked, because of which we had a lot of difficulty. I'd say that we used to think that only coding will help us. And when we sat for placements, we realized that so many questions were asked from a subject like database management system, which people consider as an easy subject and therefore don't pay enough attention to. And that really, the first interview that we got, and when we sat down in front of the interviewer and he asked us about the questions related with our curriculum, we were kind of shocked because that was not at all what we were expecting. So I just say that from a placement perspective, please make sure that every single subject that is core to your branch, you study it and you study it well. And try to try to be in touch with every single subject. So even if you think that database management system has a shorter course length, try to at least solve a few queries every single week, or pan out your studies in such a way that you are in touch with every single subject and it's close to you. So when you come for an interview, it's easy for you to answer, I'd say.
And many students have this question, including me, like what is the most effective way of practicing coding, like the most basic way of practicing coding?
The most effective, I'd say, I'll tell you what worked for me. So whenever you see a question, try to work out, try to analyze it first, try to dry run it, because it's very important. It'll help you find out all the errors that are in your logic, because whenever you'll get a question, for example, you'll always get an input and output test cases, right? So always make sure that whatever logic you're thinking of, you write it down. You make sure that all the input test cases, you run it on that logic, and if it works, well and good. If it does not, then you'll be able to understand faster what the errors are. So I think the easiest way that I found out for practicing my coding was I took the syllabus. I started with the first topic. For example, if it was linked list, so I went on Geeks for Geeks. I typed the tag for linked list and I searched all the questions. I started doing it one by one. By doing 20 to 30 questions, you get a grasp of the topic very clearly. And whatever you're not confident in, immediately solve all your doubts. Open YouTube and try to find a video and solve it immediately. Because if you leave it for later, if you think that right now I'm going to practice coding and later I will clear my theory, then it's going to be pretty haphazard. So if you do it simultaneously, that I think would be the most effective way.
Okay, thank you. And my last question to you is that how do you get the patience to sit through code? Like, it so happens that an error occurs and it's not going away, and also how do you get the patience to and not leave coding? That's my
Well,
question.
I'd say that, I mean, the motivation was to not be left jobless more than, having the patience to complete a code, I'd say. So, in your when you're closer to your to the end of your journey in college, you realize that there are things that that will affect you in the long term also. So it is that fear of either being left out in a way, or not being able to give your 100% to your future, that really makes you work hard. And that is exactly what happened to me. Actually, I was scared. I was very scared that I would not land up anywhere, and that motivated me to study. So I'd say that, if even if you're stuck somewhere, try to seek out help from either your seniors or your peers. And I'd like to say this for every single student. It's very helpful if you try to have a study which involves more than just yourself. Because in my case, I had two very good friends who were who were in my I'd say in the same discipline, and who wanted to do the same thing. So all of us used to sit down, and if there was an error in somebody's code, we used to discuss it. And by discussing it, you try, you get somebody else's perspective, and that really helps in solving a lot of things. So I think self study is no doubt good, but it is also very important to work within a community, and grow yourself, as well as help others in growing. So I think that would be very helpful when it comes to coding and studies.
Thank you so much for this insight. Sudhi, that's it for the interview. Do you have any ending comments for us juniors?
Yeah, I just say that, practice as much as you can, and you still have a lot of time. There's no need to panic. And whenever you feel a little, you feel that things are getting a little difficult and out of hand, just close everything down, breathe, and then restart. And I think that will help you.
Thank you so much for sparing time from your busy schedule. And we're really honored. I'm really honored to interview you. And I had only heard about you, never talked to you, but it had been great. It has been great. So thank you so much, Dee.
Thank you for calling me. This was a very good experience for me as well.
It's an honor for us, truly. Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.